Welcome back, nerds. We have hit the halfway point in the year, which means it is time to round up some of the best 2026 DC debuts so far. This was especially difficult this time around, considering the Absolute Universe is introducing new old friends with every issue, but here are some highlights. 10. Supergirl. Not Millie Alcock's Supergirl, unfortunately, since she technically debuted last year. The Supergirl that I'm talking about is from a brand new, published at the start of June new, Elseworlds story called Supergirl Survive. In this story, Supergirl's life quickly changes from, how am I gonna ask the boy I like to the dance, to, why am I on Krypton's sister planet with my baby cousin? Basically, the idea is, what if Kara and Cal were sent towards Earth together, but never made it? Instead, the rocket is damaged just after takeoff, and the pair crash onto Krypton's in-universe neighboring planet that had been destroyed by its own wars. Because this comic is so new, we really don't know much, but it seems like an interesting premise, and the first issue did end on a monster cliffhanger, so excited to see where that goes. 9. The Children of Arkham. Y'all, I am feeling so good right now because a comic that had its last publication in December of 2024 finally released the next issue in June of this year. Gargoyle of Gotham by Raphael Grandpa is not what I usually go for, but I was sucked into the unique Gotham reimagining and artwork, and I really thought that I was never going to see another issue of this, so thank goodness I was wrong. The Children of Arkham are basically young versions of all of Batman's iconic villains. 8. The Absolute Robins. I know everyone was waiting to see what the Absolute Universe was going to do when it came to the Bat family, especially because Bruce Wayne is so young, and they teased Dick Grayson's involvement in early issues, and he was basically the same age, if not older, as Batman. Well, we finally have our answer. The Robins are still dressed like traffic lights, only this time around they are mentored by the Joker, and part of the Robin program created to fight and defeat Batman. It features Richard, Jason, Tim, Duke, and Stephanie, all wards of the state trained to not only fight, but wield powerful suits of armor. People criticize Bruce Wayne's parenting skills with the Robins, but at least he is better than the Joker. But number 7, Backhand. DC has a wonderful talent of creating just the most insane villains you've ever seen. Just like a villain with a premise that is borderline goofy, and if you thought that era was over, I am so happy to report to you it is not. Backhand is literal. He was born with his arms backwards. He just debuted a couple months ago, so we really don't know much. Is his torso backwards? I don't think so, because he wears his suits the right way. He's obsessed with quoting philosophers because he has to spend most of his time reading because he isn't good at sports because of his backward arms. And now he has joined the Harley Quinn Revenge Squad. More to come in Harley Quinn Volume 4. 6. Absolute Black Canary. This version of Dinah Lance went from police officer to MMA fighter. She dated Absolute Oliver Queen but broke up with him because he cheated, skill issue on his part. Her MMA career was cut short when her dad got sick and she needed to move home to care for him, paid for by becoming a bodyguard for the rich and powerful. She did lose that job for punching a fan, but now she is on a case. Oliver and his business partner Slade were eliminated, and she is tasked with getting to the bottom of it and finding the elusive Green Arrow killer. Everyone loves a good mystery, and I'm excited to see where this one goes. 5. This contains spoilers for the new season of the animated series My Adventures with Superman, so please jump to the next point if you don't want spoilers. But 5. Jonathan Kent, apparently. If you do not follow the show and you are gonna stick around, My Adventures with Superman is a very popular animated Superman series airing now. They have recently announced that Superboy would be joining the new season. Superboy, in all the promo, had some edge, had some attitude, had some fingerless gloves and a leather jacket. Fans somehow wrongfully assumed that this meant Connor Kent was going to appear on their screens, but it turns out it's actually John. I don't know if John is just wearing Connor's hand-me-downs or what is going on, but it did throw many people for a loop. It's definitely shaking things up though and keeping fans on their toes, and we are eagerly awaiting the next episodes to see what happens. 4. Agent Rainbow. The Absolute Martian Manhunter comics have done it again with stunning character design in the form of Agent Rainbow. A member of the agency, Rainbow can create armies made of US soldiers from history to fight on his behalf. The rainbow is very literal. It's a very colorful display. The agent ages slowly, having been active since the 60s despite appearing to only be 40 years old. He is also able to see the Martian and communicate telepathically. The Absolute Martian character design is probably my favorite of the bunch, so I was excited to see a new addition. 3. Absolute Poison Ivy. She has been through it. Pamela's mother got sick, which prompted her to conduct scientific research on how to combine human DNA with that of plants in the hopes that we could regenerate cells through photosynthesis, essentially. However, she was working for the Joker, and when she discovered her research would be used for evil, as to be expected with the Joker, she attempted to take it back. She didn't make it very far though, because her lab was lit on fire with her inside. Only her heart survived, but she had the foresight to inject it with the plant DNA, so she was able to literally regrow herself. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore, and that's all I'm gonna say, because the story is pretty interesting and I don't want to give everything away. But Absolute Batman Arc M1 to check it out. Oho, Ojo, not completely sold on my pronunciation. I am very sorry for that, but with this villain, we are touching back down onto the Prime Earth. This Batman villain is incredibly mysterious and seems to take after like a raven. She wields swords of solid light and appears to teleport when in reality it's probably just really stealthy. Overall, she's very cool and still at large, so I believe we are excited to see her again. But number one, back in the Absolute Universe with Absolute Shazam, or King Shazam as he is known there. He was a worker in Egypt granted powers by the Brainiac Collective and overthrew his cruel bosses. His real name is Teth Adam, and he was told that sometime in the future, a savior with eyes of fire, Superman, would come and save the world. But Adam, living in ancient Egypt, didn't want to wait, so he sought out a wish-granting wizard to become that savior himself. The wizard was actually the Brainiac Collective, who exposed him to a father box, and that is how he got his abilities. He was eventually imprisoned and left in suspended animation, or like something like that, for thousands of years, until he was awakened in the modern day, just in time to meet the savior he had been waiting for, Absolute Superman. Welcome back, nerds. 2025, it is coming to a close, and what a year it was for DC fans. Not only did the DCU get a full reboot, but the DC Absolute Universe has taken the world by storm, well, thanks to the horrifying design of Absolute Joker. But today is about the superheroes, the best of the best that debuted this year. 10. Supergirl. Technically, she doesn't have her moment until next year. Summer 2026 can't come fast enough, but she did pop in a couple times this year, teasing all that is to come. Billy Alcock's Supergirl is very clearly a very different take on the character that fans haven't seen before, and her movie is supposed to be directly inspired by the beloved Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow book. Her next appearance is highly anticipated, and it's not hard to see why after that teaser trailer that we just got. But 9. Odyssey. Move over, Christopher Nolan. Odyssey, the Time Bandit, is a reformed criminal and from the future, hence the Time Bandit half of her name. She was locked up by the Guardians of the Universe and has done every side quest known to the universe. Stealing dragon eggs or flowers for Mongol from the Phantom Zone, every mission has taught her new skills that are immensely helpful to Kyle Rayner and Connor Kent in Green Lantern Volume 7. 8. Titaness. Aquaman Volume 9. Another reformed villain. He is a human shark. He's also not the sharpest, so when he was attacking Aquaman, it wasn't because he was evil, it's because there wasn't enough going on upstairs for him to question his actions. He simply did what he was told. Eventually, the hero did switch to the good side and became an ally to Aquaman and member of Justice League Blue. 7. Diana, Amazon of the DC Animated Universe. This is a new version of Wonder Woman from the sequel to Batman Ninja, so it's basically Ninja Wonder Woman we love. Although DC is pretty hilarious, because what do you mean Batman went back in time and just like erased Japan? Okay, anyways. 6. Absolute Hal Jordan. We are into the absolutes now. DC's Absolute Universe is probably their most successful run in a while, and it's always interesting to read about our favorite heroes in new situations. I know that all of the Absolute heroes are having a horrible time, but Hal has got something special going on. First of all, he thought that all of his friends and the other Green Lanterns, John and Guy, passed away in front of him. They didn't, but it sure looked that way. The stress was real. Then, instead of the Green Lantern ring, Jordan got the Black Hand. His hand became a source of destructive energy that he could barely hold back, and now, after losing it, he's stuck in a coma. That's rough, buddy. We love him though. 5. The Martian, or Absolute Martian Manhunter. All the Absolute comics are amazing, yes, of course, but there is something truly out of this world about the art of Absolute Martian Manhunter. It's abstract, it's colorful, and it's unique. It's giving Alien from another world, it really is. Also, the idea that the Martian is possessing John Jones and they must work together to save the day. I've seen it before, but I love to see it. 4. Jade Tiger Prime Earth Batgirl Volume 6. He is Cassandra Cain's half-brother. Son of Lady Shiva and Bronze Tiger, Jade didn't know his parents were evil. His dad wanted to protect him, so he just lied and said that they were superheroes. And the reason he had to do that is because every year on Jade Tiger's birthday, Lady Shiva would show up and fight him to see how his training was coming along, which is a wild birthday present, very on brand for Miss Shiva. Cassandra Cain was told by her mother to find the Jade Tiger, and that's how she found out about her half-brother. 3. The Justice Gang. James Gunn took a risk when he decided that the first team of heroes he was going to introduce to the new DCU were underdogs. Now, of course, like, people, they know about Hawkgirl, but she's not like super popular, and when you think of a Green Lantern, chances are you're picturing Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart, and well, well, casual fans just didn't know who Mr. Terrific was. But by the end of Superman, audiences were charmed. Mr. Terrific is a fan favorite especially. The dynamic of the team was perfect, the casting elevated the characters, and they left everyone wanting more. 2. Absolute Flash. We love Wally West in this house, and this version has a mullet, which is so iconic. He also has a lot of trauma and no support system, which is less fun. After the loss of his mother, he kind of shut himself off, and it wasn't until Barry Allen invited him to his experiments that Wally saw some light back in his life, until that experiment went so wrong and gave Wally his speed powers. The unfortunate thing is, when he got those powers, he got scared and ran and accidentally dragged Barry behind him, essentially shredding him through speed. Mind you, Wally's supposed to be in like the 10th grade right now. We were all saying stuff about like Bruce Wayne's age. Take a look at Wally. His costume is pretty incredible though, but another little heartbreaking piece to this puzzle, Wally has no friends, and his best friend in the Prime universe, Dick Grayson, is likely 10 years older than him here, so he doesn't even have that support system either. But number 1, David Cornsweet's Superman. This was the summer of Superman, the reboot of the DCU. It's history, if you will. Despite all the negativity, Cornsweet delivered an excellent performance as the Man of Tomorrow. He also made people want to act better for like a week there. We'll forever love the effect Superman had on the world, and I literally cannot wait for Supergirl and Man of Tomorrow. This was a big year for Marvel, between Marvel rivals really taking off, new MCU additions like the Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts, and some excellent comic runs. Marvel is leaving 2025 on a high note, so here are just a few of our favorite debuts of the year. 10. David Colton, the modern Captain America. We all know that Marvel Comics, it's a sliding time scale. You can't think too hard about it. Time isn't real. Case in point, when Steve Rogers first came out of the ice back in the 60s comics, he was iced for a max like 20 years. However, in today's comics, that number has shifted, and now, thanks to the new Captain America run by Chip Zdarsky, Steve woke up closer to our modern day, meaning that he was iced for closer to like 70 years. In that time, the government recruited David Colton, a man very similar to Steve. David witnessed the September 11th attacks, and it inspired him to join the military. Despite his frail build, again, this should sound familiar, he was given the super soldier serum and became the modern Captain America. When Steve was thawed, he accompanied David on his army tours, and together the pair worked through David's trauma, and Steve taught the man that Captain America stands for freedom for all, not just who the government tells you. David was seriously injured in his final appearance due to the fact that the serum wasn't quite perfect, and it's up in the air whether or not he actually did make it. His arc was quite interesting, so hopefully we'll see him again. 9. Aeon. Massive spoiler for Aeon's life, but it's kind of funny. He was literally punched into oblivion. That is how this new villain was defeated. He was disintegrated after being punched into oblivion by a future version of Luke Cage that had ascended to celestial status. It sounds insane because, well, it is. Aeon was an ancient inhuman whose powers were unlocked thanks to a combo of the Terrigen Mist and experiments done by the Kree Empire. He became a very skilled fighter, and the Kree would use him to dispose of opponents that really just like stood no chance against him. However, this inflated his ego to dangerous levels. He came to the conclusion that he is the most powerful person ever and set out to destroy anyone or thing deemed powerful, leading him to the mutants on Mars and, of course, New York City. You know how it ends though. I spoiled it. Celestial Luke Cage grabs him by the scruff of his neck and yanks him off of Earth and then punches him into oblivion. So that is in Power Man Timeless. 8. The MCU's Sentry. Thunderbolts was a whole moment this year. There's just something about a team of misfits and a found family trope. I love it. But a real standout was, of course, Bob. Lewis Pullman's portrayal of the character charmed audiences. He was relatable while also being the most powerful character on screen. If you weren't charmed by his personality, then you were probably fascinated with his abilities. Though not everyone could relate to Bob's specific life path, the concept of being knocked down by life again and again but choosing to get back up did resonate with a lot of people. MCU fans praised the film for not shying away from serious topics and tackling themes of mental health and healing. So we can't wait to see the Sentry and the Thunderbolts again in Doomsday next year. 7. Cobweb. She debuted on January 1st this year in Spectacular Spider-Man. When the Spider-Men were shrunk down and sent before the Central Park Sealy Court, they found an ally in a small but mighty fan, Cobweb. She loves all things Spider-Man and based her glamour on the hero. Her story has a happy ending because she was willing to help Miles and Peter. Peter gave her his blessing to join the family as Spider-Sprite. 6. Sister Sorrow. Sister Sorrow was a human just trying to save her father, which led to her making a deal with Mephisto, which is definitely in the top 10 things you shouldn't be doing in the Marvel Universe. It was basically her father's life for hers. She became an agent of the demons, specially tasked with gathering the 5 soul daggers Mephisto needed attempted to recreate the Soul Forge, an ancient artifact that could bind all human souls. The longer she lived, the more she lost herself, but she did know that she hated Mephisto, so much so that she turned on him and attempted to steal the forge when it was created. With some assistance, she was able to do that and wrestled her freedom back as well. 5. The WMD-LMD, the life model decoy of Wolfgang von Strucker. Now you're probably like, Juliana, why is a Strucker decoy making the list when Strucker's been around forever? Well, his decoy is getting Strucker's mind projected into him so he can mass produce WMDs, Wolverines of mass destruction, and I just think that's funny. But number 4, of course, the Fantastic Four. A good Fantastic Four adaptation has been long overdue, and thankfully the MCU delivered. Between the vintage aesthetic that I adore with my whole heart to the excellent casting and team/family dynamics, the Fantastic Four are a welcome addition to the MCU, and I can't wait to see them again in Avengers Doomsday in a big way. 3. Hell Hulk. It's as bad as it sounds. Hell Hulk was an experiment, literally from hell, that gained powers from the infernal furnace. This Hulk was sent into a rage and attacked Mephisto, leading to the creature being dismantled and scattered throughout Earth. The problem was his pieces emitted a sort of like radiation that would send those in its immediate area into an uncontrollable rage. The being that created the Hulk reassembled the creature, and after a long battle in Utah, Hell Hulk was dragged back where he belongs. 2. Mother of Horrors. Some new lore was added to the beginning of the Marvel Universe when the Mother of Horrors debuted in Incredible Hulk in the fall. Before her, the god of the Marvel Universe, the one above all, was considered to be like the beginning, creator, and ruler of everything, and that is not completely true anymore. Turns out, similar to the way that the one above all just like created themselves, Mother of Horrors did the same. She played a very large part in the Earth's history. Upset at the fact that the one above all dominated reality, Mother took Earth and hid it. When above all learned of the Earth, the pair fought, and Mother infected him with her corruption, and that is how the one above all manifested their darker counterpart, the one below all. So we have some new Marvel lore. We love to hear it. But number 1, X-31. Marvel decided to mix Gwen Stacy and Wolverine this year. A Gwen Stacy clone was created by the Weapon X facility because, of course, it was. She became X-31, a highly trained, dangerous individual with blades implanted in her forearms to give her an edge. She saved Spider-Man and Gwenpool from some escaped deathlocks, which is when an identity reveal happened, and I can't imagine being either of those heroes. You're fighting this like mysterious, maybe hero, maybe villain, and then you rip off her mask, and it's either you're looking at yourself or you're supposed to be deceased X. Marvel introduced some pretty cool mutants this year. Lady Henrietta, I am looking at you. Let's break down the best of 2025. 10. Rogue Red and Green. We're feeling festive. Marvel decided to split Rogue in 2 this year, Rogue Red and Rogue Green. While Rogue Red is considered more of a copy than anything else, she is slightly less powerful than the original, but she's more direct, violent, and less inclined to hold back as she is still trying to prove herself. In a future storyline, it was revealed that Rogue Green absorbed Galactus to save the world, but Rogue Red is still very much active. 9. Herald Gambit. Right at the beginning of this year, Marvel dropped Herald of Galactus Gambit. Gambit's mission was to steal a planet from the Collector's Museum that turned out to be a mini copy of Galactus's home planet. The copy actually turned out to be lifeless, but because he still helped Galactus, he was freed from his servitude. Though Gambit's time as a herald was short, it was very chaotic, as most things are with him. In order to even get close to the planet in the first place, his strategy was to cause as much chaos as possible. In this universe, Earth 39559, Gambit still possesses the power cosmic and now spends his time spreading life with that power as penance for his part in the whole mess. 8. Inari. She is a cat burglar and mutant partner to the human White Cat. She can control light and create constructs resembling a fox spirit as seen in Japanese folklore. 7. Jovius. He looks like an Avatar character and he tricked everyone in the most diabolical way. He sacrificed himself for the good of mutant kind, which inspired the mutant underground. But it turns out he actually survived and may or may not betray mutant kind sometime in the future. Jovius worked on Krakoa as a record keeper. When the island was attacked, he stayed behind to protect the archives, which was very noble. Everyone thought he was deceased, but in reality he lived and now works for a top secret division of the US government. With his vast knowledge of mutant history, Jovius could be a key player in upcoming stories, and hopefully that's in a good way. 6. Robin Cobb. In a set of twins, Robin was the mutant absorbed in the womb by her sister Piper. No one knew this, but she remained conscious in Piper. Piper couldn't contain her powerful sister and nearly eliminated her entire town, catching the attention of a Sentinel and the X-Men. The X-Men helped Piper, but Robin, possessing a candy corpse, corpse after influence from Cassandra Nova. 5. Embodiment. Eloise Bennett was the leader of the Society of the Eternal Dawn. Her ability was precognition and also living a long time, considering she was alive during the 1880s. She spent a chunk of her life attached to a magical machine that would abuse her mutant ability until being saved by her parents, who were lost in the struggle. Their sacrifice is the reason the Eternal Dawn was formed, their mission being advancing society and ensuring that it survives. This included shuttering away an evil entity that magic would later go on to battle. In the end, Embodiment ends up trapped in the Library of Fates after betraying magic. 4. Mutina, or Letitia Leach. Leach hates mutants. She starred in a mutant slander movie, is an anti-mutant influencer. But she's a mutant. Why are you hating from inside the club? Girl, get a grip and go to therapy. Stop attacking people as your outlet. She has the ability to teleport using darkness, entering one shadow and emerging out another. She also has limited mind-reading capabilities. She was detained by the X-Men, and hopefully that sorts her out. 3. Sentinel-1 from Earth 6160. The Legion of this world. He was nearly taken out by a landslide as a child, an accident likely caused by the Maker as part of his plan to take out potentially dangerous people. Of course, due to his mutant status, Legion survived in a wild way. He transformed his consciousness into a computer code. The code was streamlined by Beast and eventually placed inside a carrier Sentinel unit. 2. Justina LaGuardia. Justina might just be like the most powerful mutant ever. Her ability is to just be better than you, and I'm literally not even kidding about that. If you're a good singer, she's better. You can paint, don't look now, but she's recreating the Sistine Chapel ceiling from memory. Yeah, in her first and only appearance, she wiped the mind of Professor X when he tried to recruit her because she's better than him because of her ability. A lot of fans dislike this character, some saying that she feels like plot armor or just lazy writing. I do have a feeling that she will pop up sometime next year and magically fix everyone's problems, because you can't create a character this powerful and then just forget about her. But number 1, Lady Henrietta. She is my favorite, so she is number 1, and I have a feeling not many people will argue. She is the guardian of the realm of the dead with the ability to create golems from rock and transform her body into obsidian. You would think that she's all hard edges and tough, and a part of her is, but there is a gentle and kind side to her as well, which is nice to see, especially because she is a victim of a less tolerant time, referring to both her ethnicity and mutant status with that. She also dresses better than everybody there. Mutant Met Gala every day of the week. Welcome back, nerds. We are halfway through 2026, so let's recap some of the new Marvel mutants that you might have missed. 10. X-Men Elsewhen. John Byrne is returning to his first X-Men book and completely reimagining the story. X-Men Elsewhen picks up with our favorite mutants right at the end of the Dark Phoenix saga, and from that point, everything changes. Jean Grey is alive, but is basically reduced to the abilities and intellect of a 5-year-old. Earth TRN 1860 will follow the players that you know and love in a completely unique situation as they try and find a cure for their friend while battling old and new foes, including an army of Sentinels. This new take on the X-Men's famous book is sure to be an interesting read. 9. Crimson Dynamo. From Earth 6160, Dimitri was a victim of the Directorate X program. He underwent brainwashing to become the perfect wielder of the Crimson Dynamo armor. He worked alongside other weaponized mutants to hunt down those opposed to the ruling family, but was ultimately eliminated when the government fell. The Crimson Dynamo does exist in the 616 universe, however, he is human and this one is a mutant. 8. Chow Down! This mutant is part of the Morlocks, a community of mutants that live under NYC. He debuted in Wolverine Volume 8, Issue 14, and we can't judge a book by its cover, but he does have the look of someone that lives under New York. His ability is Lifeform Fusion. 7. Deepfake, another member of the Morlocks that also debuted in that same issue. Not much is known about her, but her mutant ability is darkness manipulation. The Morlocks are not a new thing in Marvel Comics. They debuted in the 80s, but they have been popping up a lot more in recent years, so I'm interested to see what Marvel plans are for this new underground generation. 6. Cold Bug, also from Wolverine Volume 8, but this time issue 17. Cold Bug is a man with a bug head. He fights by injecting prey with paralyzing venom, but it seems like the mutation reduced him to base instincts, so it wasn't hard for Wolverine to defeat him in the end. 5. Agent Decibel, Jubilee's cousin. We hadn't heard much about him because the pair had grown apart, living on different ends of the earth, but they were close as children considering his mutant abilities manifested accidentally when he was fixing her toy keyboard. He can generate and manipulate sound, but has also trained in practical skills like martial arts and marksmanship. He works for a Hong Kong government agency and contacted his cousin after he was unable to get back in contact with his mother, Hope. The pair managed to track her down together and free her from AIM. He debuted in the appropriately named comic Jubilee Deadly Reunion. 4. Cyclops. He's coming to Marvel Rivals, finally, I guess. I have to admit, I don't personally play the game, so I was pretty shocked when I found out that he was just joining this year. He seems like the kind of character that should have been in the first round or a second at minimum. Will I play the game? Probably not, but this is still exciting to see. 3. Terry O. Barnes. Wolverine comics are doing a lot of heavy lifting for this video. Wolverine's Weapons of Armageddon revealed a new mutant tracker named Terry. Unfortunately, there isn't much story here as she only survived 3 issues, but she was an old friend of Wolverine's and her mutant ability is literally mutant sensing. 2. Vernon Weaver. Vernon Weaver has a truly awful past. His childhood home was burned down with his family still inside, and it happened in a not so distant time period in American history in which pointy hats went around committing disgusting crime. The tragedy doesn't end there, as Vernon was then part of the Super Soldier Serum program, on top of already being a mutant with rock mimicking abilities. He did gain considerable strength and debuted in X-Men Unlimited issue 2. 1. Tyler Torrens. We are back in the pages of a Wolverine comic. Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon 1 introduced Tyler Torrens, a teenage baseball player turned mutant super soldier. He is very similar to Wolverine in some ways. Both possess regenerative abilities and animalistic tendencies, but the biggest similarity would have to be that Tyler's body was also infused with adamantium. It was a bit different and described as adamantium-infused pico technology. I don't like science, so I'm not totally sure how to say that, but it can be controlled with his mind. The adamantium can be turned into a metal form, and Tyler can make it into any shape he wants, including seeping through his skin to cover his body, though it is painful. Tyler did escape the clutches of his captors and eventually returned to his family. Welcome back, nerds! We are halfway through 2026, so it is time for a recap of all the exciting new characters that Marvel either has or has announced so far, like number 10, the Midnight Universe. Marvel will be introducing a whole new universe this October, kicking off with 3 titles: Midnight X-Men, Midnight Fantastic Four, and Midnight Spider-Man. Marvel says that the light had its turn, and this new universe will reimagine famous heroes in haunting new versions of themselves. This might be controversial to say, but it's reminding me of DC's new Absolute Universe. I'm not saying that Marvel is copying them, but creating a new darker world where famous heroes can be reimagined in unpredictable environments. There are similarities, we have to be honest. That doesn't mean that I'm still not excited about it. Absolute is popular for a reason, but this line is taken from the Marvel site directly. The X-Men no longer fight for acceptance, they hunger for blood. The Fantastic Four venture into the unknown not to save the world, but to unleash terror upon it, and Spider-Man discovers that with great power comes something monstrous. It really will be unlike anything we've seen from them, and releasing it in October is just like the perfect choice. 9. Invincible Woman, a new version of Sue Storm that has dropped, and she is nothing like her main universe counterpart because she literally took a piece out of her brain. So she is still technically somehow from Earth 616, despite not being the main universe Sue Storm. With Marvel Comics, there does come a point where you just stop asking questions and just start accepting things. This Sue accidentally eliminated every single person on her Earth except her brother after a nasty nightmare in Paris. She dreamt that she was fighting villains, and to defeat them, she made them invisible to all light and heat. However, the villains were not real, and she actually activated her power on humanity. Her brother was the only survivor because he produced his own heat. Naturally devastated, Sue asked Johnny to burn the part of her brain that felt the guilt, and it worked! So now she is insane and has no moral compass and one goal: to eliminate Galactus. The Invincible Woman is not being held back by anything, so she actually might do it. 8. Morris and Zamora. These 2 demon twins were born from the first nightmare. There's a big nightmare theme right now, so that is setting this tone nicely. The duo seem to have the most power in dreams, and were even able to counter spells from Scarlet Witch. The most prominent use of their power happened when they fought Wanda, Wiccan, and Somnus, and caused them to relive their worst moments. In the end, they were no match for the Scarlet Witch's superior magical abilities. 7. Telegon, the new Eternal. Telegon was created at the same time as the other Eternals, but was inactive, and his records were lost from the machine that is Earth. Telegon was adopted, or I guess taken, by a woman who had lost her child and cursed the gods being the Eternals, for not bringing her child back. She basically took Telegon as compensation and also for revenge. She telepathically linked their minds and then raised him. When he was eventually discovered, Icarus was sent to retrieve him, but Telegon fought back and showed off his powers of pulling things through space and time, including summoning a celestial hand, which prompted Icarus to leave the fight only because now more drastic measures had to be taken. It is cool that we did get another Eternal for the 50th anniversary. 6. Spider Noir. This show came and went with very little fanfare, and honestly, I'm quite surprised. Nicolas Cage stars as a live-action Spider Noir after voicing the character for the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated films. Despite the films being incredibly popular and stunning visuals from the show, including the kind of color saturation that people have been begging for, barely anyone seemed to talk about this when it dropped. It might have something to do with the show being available on a different platform from most other like Spider-Man content, or that the general public just isn't interested the way that they are with like Tom Holland or the animated films. Still, whether you decide to watch it in the black and white or the true color, you are sure to be amazed. 5. The Quantummancer, the Sorcerer Supreme of the Quantum Realm, the largest realm watched over by any Sorcerer Supreme, making this character potentially the most powerful of the bunch. He debuted in June this year and fought alongside the Scarlet Witch to protect the world against an extinction weapon. 4. Torment, the latest Spider-Man villain determined to ruin Peter Parker's life. What else is new? Torment has the unique ability to see spirals of light that connect people to all of their relatives. The exact science, Lord, I don't know, but it meant that his mind was always cluttered with literally everyone's family trees, and it basically drove him to insanity, and he just started removing branches, so to say. He kind of thought himself as a hero, actually, because he would seek out people being harmed by their family and then try and help them by eliminating their whole family tree. Obviously, this never went well, but the negative response to his methods angered Torment, and he lost whatever good was in his heart. Eventually coming across Carnage, the Sim teamed up with him and basically used Torment for his own targets, including how we got to Peter Parker. So any Peter Parker relatives were in more danger than usual, even if Peter didn't know they existed. Peter discovered and then lost a lot of relatives during this time. Torment did bond with Carnage at one point, but was eventually eliminated himself because there was actually no hope for him anymore, so they don't have to worry about it. 3. Wonder Man, Marvel's new series from the beginning of the year starred Simon Williams as he struggled to live out his dreams of becoming a famous actor in an industry that wants nothing to do with those extraordinary abilities. It was a really great watch, I really liked it, and it did not get the flowers it deserved, so I recommend taking a weekend to try that out. 2. Galacta, Gail Arakawa made her 616 debut this year after gaining popularity in other universes as the daughter of Galactus. While she might not be part of the Cosmic Giants family tree in the main continuity, she is connected to Galactus in a strange way. After Galactus was recently discarded to Earth, the FBI did like the most FBI thing ever and took advantage of his injured state, taking his otherworldly essence for Project Galacta. Gale is one of the people that was then injected with Galactus's essence, granting them the power cosmic. But number 1, Extinction King. The Extinction King is the master of the extinction weapons, which you can probably guess the function of. He debuted in Sorcerer Supreme 5. The king was part of a centuries-long war, and his weapons were a big part of that war, so naturally, after that, he was imprisoned for eons, eventually freed thanks to the chains weakening over the years and also a massive overuse of power. He then went on a rampage and is actually still on it. I'm pretty sure he will probably be the big bad for the Scarlet Witch this year. Welcome back, nerds. The X-Men can never know peace, and in recent years, they have been haunted and hunted by some of the freakiest and most disturbing villains I have ever seen. Today, we've gathered a handful of our favorites, and don't worry, the list gets worse as we go on. 5. Embodiment. Eloise Bennett is the type of person that believes peace is achieved through control, and also once held a black heart in her hands. Case closed. Bennett was the leader of the Society of the Eternal Dawn. She's been alive since the 1880s, has precognition, and somehow those aren't the most interesting things about her. She spent a chunk of her life attached to a soul-sucking magical machine until being saved by her parents, who she did lose in the struggle leading to the Eternal Dawn Society being formed. The mission is advancing society and ensuring it survives. This included shuttering away an evil entity that Magic would later go on to fight. While this doesn't make her sound like a villain, she did betray Magic in the end and ended up trapped in the Library of Fates, which honestly doesn't sound that bad to me, but. 4. Nick Cisnowski. Nick was a construction worker who lost his job thanks to corporate greed. Not even comic book workers are safe from it. When Krakoa disappeared, all the mutants rejoined society. A good field for many people, thanks to their unique abilities, was construction, but that meant that the humans that weren't able to, weld with their hands were now getting pushed out for being too slow or expensive. This is what happened to Nick. The stress of losing his job made mutant resentment fester until eventually he made a shady deal with the shady figure and injected himself with Gamma, becoming his own version of a Hulk. He wasn't looking to be a villain, but it turns out the injection was created by Cassandra Nova with the intention of hurting X-Men members in the area. Nick was unfortunately an unknowing player in her plan and was never meant to survive that dose. 3. Utina, and the call was coming from inside the house. She's a movie star gone wild. Letitia Leach hates mutants. She starred in a mutant slander movie. She's an anti-mutant influencer influencer. But the gag is, she is a mutant herself. She teleports using darkness, entering one shadow and emerging out another. She was detained by the X-Men and the Outliers, but she was very creepy. If the shadow emerging thing isn't enough, she wore this like demon smile mask and a tutu and blade set. 2. Sarah Gaunt. Already, her name is pulling a lot of weight and foreshadowing her later appearance, but she actually was romantically involved with Professor X and had a child with him like way back, long before the professor was even a professor, really. Sarah debuted in the summer of 2024. She is not a mutant, but a human witch that suffered a grotesque and drastic transformation after her and her son were swept away by a hurricane and her son didn't make it. Because Charles didn't want to actually start a family with her, she had some unresolved anger towards mutants and began working with a prison to hunt down mutants. That is how she ran into and ultimately fought some of the X-Men. She did almost eliminate Rogue, but thankfully Gambit and Wolverine stepped in alongside the Outliers, a group of young mutants that also debuted that summer. 1. Aegon. This ancient spirit is as unsettling to look at as they are conniving. Primarily, they make deals with those at the ends of their ropes, like when Storm was gravely injured and suffering from a rare type of radiation poisoning. The spirit removed all radiation and other ailments from Storm's body in exchange for her not using her mutant abilities for like 7 days. While this sounds easy enough, Storm was in the very close vicinity of prime ragebaiter Dr. Doom, so she activated her powers, the spirit showed up, she's done, but then the miracle of plot armor, the spirit suddenly becomes compressed by an eternity-possessed Storm and fed to Maggot's digestive system, which is a wild week for Storm to say the least, but when is her life ever normal?